The sliding door opened. Outside air poured into the cabin, cold and damp, bringing with it the continuous shriek of wind at roughly 500 feet. The soldier sat tight against the edge of the aluminum floor, boot soles hanging over empty space. A monkey strap looped around his waist tightened every time the helicopter shuddered. Thin, frayed, it was the only thing holding a human body back from a straight vertical fall. The smell of hot engine oil mixed with old gun smoke clung to the throat, producing a light but persistent nausea. That position was called shotgun rider. There was no backrest. All the weight was carried by thigh muscles and the lower back. The air inside the compartment was dry and thin, each hurried breath scraping raw against the throat. The soldier held an M60 laid across the door, its 7.62mm ammo belt weighing nearly 20 pounds dragging his arm downward. His shoulder went numb after 10 minutes. His trigger finger trembled, not from cold, but from fatigue. He looked down. Trees swept past too fast to fix on anything. If the strap slipped, then what? The question surfaced and was immediately cut off by the mission. Observe, mark, suppress. Why was this position the most dangerous? Because every firing angle was open, and every round from the ground could come straight through the door. A sharp metallic impact cracked through the cabin. The aircraft lurched a few degrees offline. The crew chief shouted, hands flashing urgent signals. Fire from below came up in scattered bursts. Small metal fragments bit into the floor, leaving bright gouges. The soldier ducked low, the strap cinching tight, breathing fast. There was nowhere to hide. He squeezed the trigger in short bursts, counting the rhythm to avoid a jam. The M60 roared, searing hot, while the body holding it remained fragile. Destructive power sat in his hands. Human survival hung from a single strap. The M60 rested on hhis thighs like a living block of steel, more than 20 pounds pressed into the vibrating floor, transmitting straight into the pelvis. A belt of 7.62mm rounds looped around his neck and shoulder, each cold link scraping sweat-wet skin. Every time the aircraft changed heading, the belt slid and tugged his head sideways, wrenching his neck tight. They called it the pig, not for its shape, but because it was heavy, hard to control, and constantly demanded to be fed with ammo and strength. The floor throbbed with rotor rhythm. The low frequency churned his stomach. The smell of hydraulic oil mixed with old gun smoke and human sweat formed a dense stench that clung to the lungs. The grip grew hotter with each short burst. He changed belts in the cramped space, knees knocking the door frame. Every movement took seconds longer than it would on the ground. Why was everything harder? Because there was no stable plane here, and every mistake fell out the door. Key temperature inside plunged to between -40 and -60 degrees Celsius. Wind approaching 200 miles per hour slammed into the crew, compressing their chests and tearing breath from their lungs. Yet when rounds punched through thin aluminum skin, no one took the armor off. The contradiction showed in every shallow breath. Want protection, but each plate added heat, reduced oxygen, pushed the heart faster. Fear didn't vanish, it just changed shape, from fear of being shot to fear of not being able to breathe. This position carried a high casualty rate. The number didn't need to be spoken. Everyone knew it. The 5-minute pressure began when the skids left the ground. The first 5 minutes were the worst. Approach, descent, door open. The soldier counted time by vibration. 1 minute passed, sweat ran into his eyes. 2 minutes, his hands began to shake. 3 minutes, his stomach clenched, nausea rising. Why did the body react this way? Because the nervous system was forced into maximum alert with no outlet. Another heavy metal strike, a fresh gouge on the floor, a fragment lodged in the door frame, stopping inches from his knee. Like he ducked on reflex, the safety strap biting into his hip. A teammate behind him shouted short commands. No one answered with words. They answered with actions. Fire, hold, count rounds. When the final belt was seated, his hands were numb. His mind narrowed to exactly what had to be done. Fear didn't disappear. It compressed, tight enough not to drop the gun. At cruising altitude, the helicopter settled into a strange lull. Through the open door, old forest spread out in a continuous green sheet. No smoke, no obvious movement. The soldier looked down and felt distance creep in. Rotor noise evened out, the airframe steadied, the wind cooled. From above, everything shrank, like a tabletop. Why did the mind feel lighter? Because distance dampened threat signals. The brain temporarily believed control had returned. The quiet never lasted. The pilot dropped altitude. Pressure changes clogged his ears. The oil smell thickened. Vibration increased. Trees swelled in the frame. A dry crack popped from under the canopy. A hot LZ formed in seconds. The helicopter hovered low, about 100 feet up. Rotor wash blasted dust and dry leaves into his face. Eyes burned. Breathing shortened as armor crushed his chest. He fired short bursts, sweeping the tree line. Rounds slapped the fuselage, leaving bright streaks. A small fragment bounced onto the floor and stopped by his boot. No time to look. Why not look? Because stopping meant missing the next firing rhythm. Sound layered on sound. Rotors, gunfire, shouted signals. The floor tilted. The helicopter jolted as troops dropped. One man slipped and was hauled back. Blood seeped from a forearm. Thin, not much. A faint metallic tang drifted through. The soldier kept firing. Shoulder muscles burned. Ammo dwindled, each round pulling the belt with a metallic rasp. He counted to prevent a jam. Counting imposed order when everything else was breaking apart. Targets were unclear, movement behind brush, a low silhouette running. Who was it? The question surfaced and was cut off. Suppressive fire rules applied. A burst cut through leaves. The result went unverified. Why accept ambiguity? Because hesitation increased risk to the aircraft and the team. After several missions, reactions changed. Heart rate no longer spiked as sharply. Hands shook less. The soldier recognized sensitization. Not loss of feeling, but reduced amplitude, so the body could endure. Repeated images stuck briefly in short-term memory, then were pushed aside to keep working. When the aircraft climbed again, the forest flattened once more. The lull returned, but the body stayed tight, ready for the next descent. A clearing opened as the helicopter dropped. Red dirt whipped up, dust sticking to teeth and throat. Gunfire echoed from the tree line, scattered but close. The soldier saw a body lying in the open, less than 60 feet from the door. Dark clothing, a weapon still in hand. Age unclear, left leg unmoving. Blood soaked into the dirt in a dark stain. No spray, just steady seepage. The aircraft touched down for seconds. Shouted orders stacked over engine noise. The soldier fired on reflex, then stopped. Why stop? Because the body didn't move, and the distance was close enough to see a trembling hand. A thought flashed. Fire again to be safe, or hold. The brain offered no moral reasoning, only registered accumulated exhaustion, the numbness that had hollowed out familiar responses. He left his position. The ammo belt slipped off his shoulder. The gun was left at the door. The action happened before explanation could form. Why step down? Because the body searched for a break from the loop of repeated actions. It wasn't a tactical decision. It was a reflex to reclaim control through an unsanctioned act. Redemption didn't change the outcome. It didn't stop bullets or keep aircraft aloft. He understood that when he was pulled back to the helicopter door. The safety strap clipped at his waist, cold metal biting bone. The floor bucked, engine screamed, breath shortened under crushing plates. Hands hauled him up, no questions. Only fast movements to escape fire. He dressed the wound with shaking hands. Sweat stung his eyes. Armor made breathing hard. Every forest sound stretched long. Time lost its rhythm. No teammates, no orders. Just two men and waiting. Redemption, if it existed, didn't come from rescue, but from not firing when he could have. It didn't make things safer. It only kept the mind from collapsing completely, left behind. The sensation came seconds later. Not fear at first. Emptiness. He checked what he carried. No primary weapon. Only a knife and a field dressing. The wounded man stirred, the weapon slipping from his hand. The person he'd been about to kill now lay beside him. Why did this paradox exist? Because war assigned roles faster than understanding could follow. Fire intensified. The pilot pulled power. The helicopter lifted. Wind hammered harder. A burst cut across the clearing, carving short lines in dust. The soldier turned back, arm raised by reflex. No response. The aircraft pulled away to avoid being shot down. The clearing went quiet as engine noise faded. Silence arrived fast and heavy, ringing the ears. The ground was hot and vibrating. Rotor noise stabbed the ears. He ran crouched, lungs burning on dusty air. Reaching the body, he saw a thigh wound, bone not exposed, weak pulse. The other man breathed shallowly, Eyes open but unfocused, the smell of powder and damp earth mixed together. No words, no exchange, just two bodies close together, both shaking.